be here. Thank you all for inviting me for validating the work that I do. I don't have any words right now. I'm kind of in my emotions and my feelings, and I'm gonna allow myself to sit there for a minute. So good morning, everyone. I am, like I said, so honored to be here, to be with educators and leaders of color from around the world. Little Stephanie could not have even dreamed to be in this room today, and so I am honored to share a little bit of my story with you all today. So I want to start by asking you all to talk to each other for 2 minutes, because I know I have a limited amount of time on here. But I want you to look at this picture here, and I want you to talk to your neighbor and think about how that might be a site of radical dreaming. So take consider the dangerous side, the hazardous side, the scary side, the poor side, and the city's refusal to really provide basic infrastructural assistance made sure that this dangerous zone would never shed the race and class-fueled segregation of its past. But my family taught me the importance of imagining new possibilities and creating hope in dismal situations. And those lessons helped me to reframe thoughts about my community. I don't know, but you may be wondering, what does any of this have to do with education? Well, just like the road in my hometown, education is full of potholes on the road to social justice and equity. So think about it. Potholes are mini craters that are formed by wear and tear. They can vary in size and from just a few inches wide and deep to something much larger and more menacing. And there are generally 4 steps-ish to their creation. So first, melted snow or rain seeps through the cracks in the pavement. If the water can't adequately drain out, it kind of becomes saturated and soft. Then that trapped moisture, it goes through freeze and thaw cycles with the seasons. And each time it goes through this process, the expanding ice lifts and cracks the pavement from underneath it. And the passing traffic weakens that pavement, cracking it further. Then, as temperatures rise and the ice melts, a void is left under that pavement, so it creates kind of like this little divot. And lastly, vehicles drive over this weakened pavement and it pounds it until the surface breaks and collapses into the void below, creating a pothole. White settler colonialism is within and beyond the field of education, and it is within and beyond the people who populate the school buildings, and teachers and students and community members in our curriculum. And the water of settler colonialism has been trapped in education for so many years, so many freeze and thaw cycles, that it has weakened various aspects of our field. And it has weakened our ability to think of innovative ways to remove that water from our foundation. And this has caused a void to exist under us. And we know it's there. We know it exists. We feel its existence every day. We feel the soft, tenuous ground beneath her. This void has continued to get bigger and bigger. And there are folks who want to keep it this way, who want to continue weakening that pavement. So they keep pushing and driving their heavy vehicles over us, both literally and metaphorically, in our weakened state, in hopes that the surface breaks and collapses into the void. And sadly, it often does. So these potholes form calls to those who have the authority to make these changes. And I commend all of us who engage in these practices, who choose and sometimes must work within the confines because our lives, and possibly the lives of our families and friends, depends on it. But I also know that sometimes we have to get a bit creative, a bit radical. And I'll give you a couple examples of what I mean by that. So there's a whole bunch of pictures, and they mean something, I promise. So when I was in high school, or didn't speak to that class, but mostly with students of color. And that test, it didn't adequately gauge their knowledge or their intelligence, or even their ability to do reading and writing in the way that it's supposed to. It was a test to see how good they were at taking tests. A test to see how well they knew the language and see stories by folks of color in hopes that they could transfer that knowledge that they learned so they could hopefully pass these test period for all students. Or option 3 was to help them find a love of reading that wasn't attached to the test at all. And so, me and a few of my English teacher colleagues decided to go for option 3. We refused to punish those students by forcing them to endure white-centered texts. To challenge the system, we really did have to get creative. Like, no books, apply for a grant. Don't know where the grants are? Go figure it out. No initial support from leadership, do what we need to do, and then still invite them to come, to show them that we did it anyway. And we didn't have the means to upend the entire system. Like, that class didn't go away. Like, we tried, they didn't do it. But we could work within that system to make change. And so in this instance, one pothole was the white-centered text that students loathed that didn't make them feel like reading was a worthwhile endeavor. Another was the bureaucratic obstacle of getting new books in the classroom. And that last pothole was the ways in which inequitable assessments are equated to student intelligence and capability. And we filled those potholes the best we could. And although I don't think we filled them completely, I do think the students were able to drive across that road, navigating our class and others because we decided that it was okay to be creative, to do something. When I think about it now, this is a very interesting way of doing that. But I want to explain why I needed that creativity. And I need to go back a bit, so that's why you have a picture of me when I was little. So when I was a little girl, I used to write and tell stories. And I love telling my mom stories about my day, and I love making up stories and adventures in my head. And eventually I started writing stories of my own. And I really loved writing mysteries. And most of my mysteries were about a little girl, and I often named her Stacy. It's close to Stephanie, but not, so I wasn't the main character. And it was second or third grade, I don't know, I had the same teacher, so one of those years. And I brought one of my Stacy mysteries to class. And she said, "Oh, this is such great writing. I can't wait to see you take this creativity into real school writing." And it was at that moment that I learned that my storytelling ability was not a priority in schools. And I was so excited to share my creativity with this teacher, and she did tell me that my writing was good, but she also told me that it was separate from academic writing, that this wasn't academic. Your creativity, your storytelling, the way that you engage in narrative, that is not academic enough.